Welcome to our Leadership Basics training. We're going to get started. I want to make sure we can cover the awesome material we have tonight. So we're going to move through, and then at the end, I'm going to open up for questions. So as we're going through, if you've got questions, kind of jot them down, and we'll either put them in the chat or we'll ask you to unmute and we'll answer questions. For those of you that are new to our call, my name is Dadra Driscoll. I am, in addition to being an evolution travel agent, I am a minister, a teacher, a mentor, a management and leadership consultant. I am an entrepreneur, and I am a certified member of the John Maxwell Leadership Team. So I'm here to help you with leadership. So unlike calls that may talk to you about team building or about booking travel, this is going to be training that is going to be valuable to you as a leader, whether you are doing one or the other or both, because you are a leader in business. You're the leader in your business. I was talking with someone and I shared with them, I said, as an entrepreneur, you're also your own HR. So understanding leadership is not something just for people who have large teams. You're also a leader, and you're going to learn some things about leadership that will help you choose the people in your life that you allow to speak into your life, that you allow to help you develop, because leadership is going to be very important. My good friend John Maxwell always says that everything rises and falls on leadership. So as we go through this training and these series of trainings, we're going to talk about things that aren't just specific to a singular aspect of your business, but these are going to be principles that are going to be great for your whole life. So let's keep going. We're bringing together information from the 15 invaluable laws of growth, something that I really appreciate having as a part of my repertoire for teaching as a member of the John Maxwell team, because I want to make sure that I help people learn how to grow, learn how to become the best leader they can be. So I've been doing this for, oh wow, probably almost 30 years in general, but in particular, more recently, like I said, I am a member of the John Maxwell Leadership Team. So we're not covering all the laws. We're going to just cover one this time, but this is the book that it's coming from, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. In case you want to acquire this book, I highly recommend it as something to add to your learning repertoire, because as a leader, you should always be learning. All right. So we're going to talk about law number two, the law of awareness. You must know yourself to grow yourself. Now, I know that that's, kind of cliche-ish. I realize that. But I also realize, I'm trying to make sure I get my information up well for you. There is that often as people in business, if you've worked in a traditional 9 to 5 type scenario versus owning your own business, we treat our life and our approach to life differently depending on what setting we're in. When you're in a traditional work setting, you're counting on that HR department or that company to direct and guide you. But it's going to be important for you as an entrepreneur that you understand certain things about yourself so that you can make the right choices about guiding yourself in business. So let's keep going. Who are you? I know that's a philosophical question. If I were to ask you who you are, some of you may say that you are a wife or a mother or a husband, or you might say that you're a sister or brother, a daughter. You might say that you're an engineer. You might say you're a travel agent. You might say you're an entrepreneur. You might say you're a chef. There's all sorts of answers that you might give. And those answers may be correct, but often people have trouble and they struggle with answering a question like that because they don't know, quote unquote, what the right answer is. And when I ask the question, who are you? I'm speaking to purpose. I'm speaking to the core of who you were created to be. So let's keep going. So we said to grow yourself, you must know yourself. So what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your interests? What are your opportunities? Look at where you are versus where you want to be. The answers to these kinds of questions help you as a leader determine who you are. And often, especially if you've been in a particular career path for a long time, you may have done these things, may have looked at some of these questions and answers when you were first, graduating from school and going into the workforce. But for many of us, it's been years because we kind of get set into a track and we're following a certain pace where we're not actively looking at what am I good at? Now, I'm going to even take it a step further. Many of us got into careers because someone else told us to. Someone else suggested that we do something, and we went along with it. I'm not going to ask how many of you feel this way, but I'm sure all of you know at least 5 people who are unhappy in their careers, and maybe even more. People who just go to work for a paycheck. There's no joy, there's no passion because they've gotten into a situation that they don't know how to necessarily get out of. And there used to be a commercial that said time to make the donuts. The guy would just get up and go to the donut shop. So many of us kind of got into that routine and we stopped or we didn't follow our passion for whatever reason. And this assessment is going to cause you to have to look at that and to ask yourself, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What is my purpose and passion? So that's what we're going to be talking about. So let's keep going. So there's 3 kinds of people when it comes to finding direction. And I want you to figure out which one of these 3 you are. The first is people who don't know what they would like to do. And unfortunately, that group of people, they're confused. They don't know. They're just out here existing. Then there's group 2, people who know what they want, but they don't do it. And there could be any number of reasons. And that group of people, those are people who are frustrated because they know what it is that they want to do, but for whatever reason or circumstance or finances, they're not actually doing it. And that can be very frustrating. The third group are people who know what they want and do it. And that group of people are the people who are fulfilled. Now, it's my goal and my hope and my prayer that no matter which one of these categories you find yourself in, we can help you fall into this third category where you're fulfilled in doing what you were designed to do. And I say designed because I want you to consider, again, you were created for something, something amazing, something great, something that you are uniquely put here to do. And if you're not doing it, you'll either fall into one of those first 2 categories. And the best thing in life for you is to find that thing and do it. I think back when, many, many years ago, when I first went to college, I was an engineering major. And so for those of you who know me personally, you know I'm a super nerd. And my high school counselor had told me I should be an engineer because I was good at math and science and I could make a lot of money. That was her reasoning, and that was where she told me to go. Now, I felt in my heart of hearts, always, even playing as a kid, I was always wanting to be the teacher and the trainer. I told her I wanted to be a teacher, and my high school guidance counselor, bless her heart, said to me, being a teacher would be a waste of your brain. You should be an engineer, and what I said earlier, because you're good at math and science and you can make a lot of money. So I set off on a course. I got a major for high school, got scholarships to go to college to become an engineer because that's what she told me to do. Even though being an engineer was not at the core of my purpose. And I had an internship at Dow, and for those Dow Corning Chemical Company, I was a chemical engineering major, had this amazing internship. So that summer, after my freshman year of college, I went to work at Dow. And my mentor at Dow took me to lunch and he was asking me some questions about what I wanted to do. And I was explaining to him how I was going to be the rehearsed answer. I was going to become a chemical engineer and da 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 da, blah, blah, blah. And then, but I wanted to teach. And he said something to me. He said, then why don't you become a teacher? Because everything you're telling me keeps leading you back to what you really want to do. And you're telling me what you've been told to do, but you're not doing what you want to do. Don't be like me. And then he explained to me that at that point he had worked almost 40 years and he was at the top of his field. He made lots of money, was the best, blah, 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 but that he had always wanted to do something else. He had always wanted to teach, but he didn't, and he had become an engineer, and that he works with the mentorship program to try and get that fulfillment and to help others. But he always had wished that he had done something else. And he said, don't be like me. And that stuck with me. And eventually I left and changed and took my life in a different direction. And literally all throughout other things that I've done, um, I realized once I understood my purpose and I started running toward my purpose that I was flourishing. Amazing point just to say, if you want to get fulfillment, get into the place that you were designed to be, because there's nothing like it. But in order to get there, you've got to be aware. You've got to pay attention. Now, for those of you who are parents, if you've got children, one of the greatest things and gifts you can give your children beyond all the material things is to help them discover their purpose, to help them embrace and pursue what they were created to be. And even when they're little and young and growing up, that inclination in them is showing and shining through if you pay attention. So as you're learning all of this about yourself, for those of you that are parents, definitely take the note and then look at your children and help. Don't push them into something just for money or job security or things of that nature. Help them find who they were created to be. So let's talk about that. So Robert Schuller, he said, if you know you could not fail, what would you do? You know, we often say, if money was not an object, or if you could just do whatever and you knew you would be successful at it, what would you do? Most people, when answering this question, whatever the answer is, has nothing to do with what they tend to do in their day-to-day life, or very little. Like I mentioned, I was being pushed to be an engineer and I wanted to be a teacher, or as my mentor at that time, as he said, he became an engineer and worked in that field for 40 years and had not pursued what his passion was, and he was about to retire. So finding your passion and purpose, do you like what you're doing? Now listen to this, and this is another one of those little philosophical points. I want you to think about it. If a person sets out to run a mile and 3/4 of a mile ahead, there is a cliff, should that person try to finish running the mile just because he started out to do so? If you knew up ahead there was a cliff, would you change directions or would you just keep running because that's how you started out? Changing direction is a risk. But what if you don't change? Which risk would you rather live with? Now think about that. Which risk would you rather live with? When I shared that story about my mentor, he literally was about to retire and had never done the thing that was his passion. Imagine that. So for those of you, again, you're entrepreneurs, you've got businesses and you're running families. If you realize that you're going down a path that's not leading you to the point of fulfillment, then you may need to make some changes. Take the risk, because the risk versus reward, if you keep going down a place, that's why we find so many people that are unhappy, people that are frustrated and stressed out, people that are dying prematurely and things, because they find themselves in positions of burnout and things that are not where they need to be. So again, what is it that you would like to do? Ask yourself that. Check your heart, because you know the answer. You may have pushed it aside many years ago. You may have given up on it, but you do know the answer. Now, burnout is a real thing, but it's not what often people think it is. Burnout is not doing too much of something. Burnout is doing any amount of the wrong thing. Let that sink in, because burnout is often what drives people to entrepreneurship. But when you turn the corner and you say, I'm going to pursue my passion, you can't keep holding on to the thing that's not your passion as a safety net. Because often what keeps you from being all in and super successful in your business is you being afraid of letting go of the security of your traditional 9 to 5. Now, here's my disclaimer. I did not make that statement to say to go tomorrow and turn in your letter of resignation necessarily. But what we're talking about is making plans and really positioning yourself to follow your purpose. For some people, they could never imagine giving up the security of that 9 to 5, that paycheck at the end of the week, that every 40 hours they get a check, or every 2 weeks, or whatever that is. It's frightening, and they could not imagine it. But let's talk about finding your passion and purpose. Can you do what you want to do? First, you have to have a dream, and it has to be specific. What is that thing that you want to do? For some of you, you've wanted to become a travel agent. You want to travel the world and help other people see the world. And that's a great dream. And if that's your dream, congratulations, you're on your way to it. But again, figure that out. When it comes to understanding your passion, start with, what is my dream? What is it that I want to do? Not what is my fairy tale. What is the realistic thing that I want to do? In understanding that, look at what are your unique talents and gifts. I mentioned earlier, for those of you that are parents, to also consider this process when it comes to your children. Because often in playtime, they're revealing who they really are. I was formerly a children's minister, and I had an opportunity to talk with a parent because she was a single parent. She had a son. He was um, he had gotten in trouble in school. I'm not going to say that he was a bad child, but he had gotten in trouble in school, and she had come in for counseling, and she was all ready and up in arms about, he doesn't, da 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 da. And so I asked her about what happened, and she explained what had happened. And the teacher had asked them to do something that he did not feel was something he should do. He didn't feel like it, he felt like it went against, not from a rebellious perspective, but at his core, he felt that it was in conflict with him as a Christian, something she wanted him to do, and he didn't want to do it. And the teacher, just kind of sent him to the office, and they were saying, hey, but what happened was, when we were talking, and she was going on about, oh, he's always running at his mouth and blah, blah, blah. And I explained to her, I said, well, because again, I got to know him. I was his children's minister. And I mentioned to her, I said, now, whenever something happens, he always speaks up for someone else or the underdog. And he always has a strong conviction for things being right. And he has lots to say. And when he's saying it, he is really thought out why something should be the way it should be or not. I said, he would make an outstanding attorney. And she looked at me, because at this point he's maybe 10, 11 years old. And I was telling her, I said, yes, he has lots to say. I said, but he's always championing for a cause or a purpose. And that's just how he is. That's who he is. Now, his brother was the exact opposite of him, very soft spoken, didn't have a lot to say. But I said, but if you consider who he is and how he is, you also have to hear him out, because if you ask him why he said and did what he did, those are values you've instilled in him, and you told him not to, that he should be honest, and whatever it was that the teacher was telling him to do, he felt it went against that. So he wasn't being disruptive for the sake of being disruptive. And she got very quiet and she said, I've never considered that about him, but you're right. Now that you put it in that way, he does. He always has an argument for something and he has it thought out. Fast forward years later, that young man happens to be an attorney right now in Mississippi. But again, helping them find their passion. What drives you? What are your values and priorities? And if you have the right motive about it, pursuing that passion will put you in that place of fulfillment. It will also put you in a place of favor where you begin to earn the income that you're looking for as well. Because working then will have a whole different, the word people use now is vibe. But if you can get into a place where you're actually pursuing your passion, work won't feel like work. So, how do you do what you want to do? It starts with that awareness. What is it? Who am I? And who am I? And what am I supposed to be doing? And then you move into the position of action. From that, once I know what it is, what are the steps that I need to take to go about doing it? And with that, who do I have in my life, or who can I get in my life to help me be accountable to that action plan? And once I'm doing that, that will then attract the things that I need. I'll say that again. So you're going to start with the point of who am I? Becoming aware of your strengths, your weaknesses. What is my passion and purpose? Then moving from that to creating the action plan, having the appropriate person to hold you accountable to it. And getting into that position will then attract the success that you're looking for. Once you do that, the next set of things are for you to be. Be committed. Be consistent. Be creative. Be purposeful. Be reflective. Be grateful. Now, let's talk about being. Because in your current business, start out with being committed. The thing about being committed that you've got to take into consideration is that there are going to be times in your business where things aren't going exactly the way you wanted them to go. And when that's happening, it's going to be very easy to potentially want to quit. So you don't want to get into that problem of giving up. Being committed to your success may mean getting a mentor, getting someone who can help you achieve that success. Now, I'm using the term mentor from a leadership perspective. I'm not saying that term specifically to necessarily mean the person who signed you up into the business. It might be that person, but it might not. But you've got to be committed and you've got to have someone in your life who's going to help you be accountable and all those things we saw on the other slide. But being committed also may mean that you've got to find the right people. You may have to pay for certain trainings and skills that you don't have. You have to be willing to invest. That's a part of being committed as well. Being committed involves your time, your talent, and your treasure. There's some people who have what you want. They're achieving success that you want, that you may have to pay for their time. And often people don't want to do that, but that's part of it as well. Be consistent. You may need to set up a schedule with that person that you're accountable to so that you're going to have them check in with you or you check in with them at certain intervals to keep you on track with that action plan. It might mean that you've got to be creative. Being creative means you might even learn from people who you've never met. I know a lot of people follow YouTube and they look at inspirational videos from different people. You can, name off some of the big names, but that might be a way of you getting some mentorship and some direction. Be purposeful. When it's time for you to meet with your mentor, have something ready. Often I've given away times on my schedule at different boot camps. I've given away one-on-ones. And I always tell the people, when you come for your one-on-one, come with some questions or come with a situation. What is it that you want me to help you with? Don't just come hoping that I'll magically rub my crystal ball, and I have a crystal ball around here somewhere, and figure it out. If you're wanting to take time with a mentor, you want to be purposeful in that meeting. You want to be purposeful. This is what I need help on, or this is what I'm working on right now, or this is what I need direction on. Then be reflective. What is it that I'm learning? Is this agreement, this relationship valuable? Am I getting out of it what I want? Now, when I started earlier, I said this may or may not be specific to the person that signed you up in the business. I mentioned on another call that if you need your learning style, and on one of my future leadership calls, we're going to talk about learning styles. But if your learning style is different than that person's leadership style, you may need to find someone different to help you. It doesn't make that person bad. It doesn't make that person wrong. You just may need something different. So as I'm going through these points, for those of you who have teams, I want you to also consider these things when you're in the role of mentor so that you can make sure that you're being what your mentees need from you. So is this relationship working? Am I developing and discovering what I had hoped for? And then be grateful. Always show appreciation to the people who help you along the way. Because as I mentioned, there may come a time where the roles are reversed and it's you who are then going back and pouring into someone's life. So finding your passion, finding your purpose, and getting someone that you can get in relationship with to help you grow is going to be really important. It's a part of that awareness cycle. So let's talk about finding a coach or a mentor. For you, the person who's going to find a coach, you need to possess a teachable spirit. Don't go into it like you know everything. Always be prepared. Ask questions. Demonstrate learning from them, and then be accountable. Now, often again, trying to know how this fits into you and what it looks like. As adults, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I don't agree with that. I think that you can, as long as that dog wants to learn new tricks. So no, I'm not calling you a dog, but I'm simply saying you've got to possess a teachable spirit. So I came up with this little example, and because I felt like it would be harmless in terms of people who get in their feelings sometimes when we give examples and they think someone told me about them. This is an example about my niece, Jasmine, and I love Jasmine. This is an old story, but I'm telling it for a particular reason. When Jazz was about 3, going on 4, we went to the library and they had a program called 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. Well, when we showed up that particular day, the program had already been going on for a little while, so she was just kind of jumping in at whatever point in the year they were. So she hadn't started school yet. She could not read, but she decided she wanted to be a part of this program. So as we go through here, we're picking up books at the library, and they had to either have someone read the book to them if they couldn't read, or read on the level they were on, read to themselves or read to someone else. But the goal was for them to try and read 1,000 books before kindergarten, and they were going to get rewarded with little prizes and different things along the way. So as we look at these different pictures, that was when she first got started. The second picture there, she was going and putting her star on the wall after her first 100 books. It had gotten good to her then. She was always getting books. She literally had me taking her to the library every week. We were checking out books, bringing them home, returning them, and getting new books. She moved on. She got up to 5 books. She got her sister involved to help her, and her older sister would read to her. She had her parents, her aunt, me, anybody who came in the door, who came to the house. She was telling them, I'm going to read 1,000 books before kindergarten. And most adults looked at her and they would laugh because, like I said, she started this off when she was 3 and she could not technically read. But along the process, she knew her letters. She was learning how to sound out things. She was learning how to read. As she went along, as you can see there, she moved up to 500 books, moved up to 600 books. By the time her first day of school, she had read over 700 books. And like I said, she didn't get started with the program when it first started, so she didn't have a full time. But I use this example because for someone who's 3, who comes up to you and says, I'm going to read 1,000 books, most people would laugh at them. But this process put her in a situation where once she started school, she has been ahead of her grade level in learning all through school. She's 12 now. And when she was telling me a list of things she had wanted, she had actually asked me to buy her a book for Christmas last year. And in this digital age, it was so touching to me that she wanted a physical book about a particular book she wanted. But I thought back to this moment when she was 3. And I share that with you because that same process, whatever it is that you're wanting to do, you may be at that point where people are laughing, like, how are you going to possibly do that? You don't know how to do that. You're not this, or you're not that, or you don't have this. But if you get the right mentors, and as I mentioned, she went to any and everybody who came in, she had a book always around, wanting them to read to her or wanting them to listen to her read to them, because she was committed to her plan. And I share that with you. She held me to make sure I took her every week to the library to take her books back and to get new books. And she began to learn. And now she, like I said, once she got into school, she's been ahead of the grade every year. Now, if you are a coach or a mentor, then you should focus on teaching on the following areas. What are your strengths? What is your temperament? What is your track record? What is your passion? You should be talking to them about the choices that they make. What advice can you give, or what advice do they need? What support and resources? If you don't have what your people need, can you connect them to the right person? Again, it doesn't matter who helps them lay the bricks in your business, as long as they get it built. Don't be insecure. If they need training on something, if you're a team builder and they need travel training, don't sit there and try and make up some answers about travel when you know you don't book travel. Pair them with someone who can help them in the areas that they need, and vice versa. If you're not real strong in team building and they want a team build, pair them with a team builder who can help them. As a mentor, you want to get feedback. Is this helping you? What would help you? What can we do to help you get to the next point, the next level? And then always provide encouragement. When my niece told me she wanted to read 1,000 books before kindergarten, I didn't see that as, something she couldn't do. Now, mind you, I mentioned lots of other adults did and were kind of like, what in the world? But I was like, sure, let's get started. Every week she had a little sheet and she would check off, first it was the first 5 books, then 10 books. And every so many, once they filled out a sheet, they took it back to the library and got a little prize. So she was motivated by those prizes she was getting. So she kept pushing and pushing. But again, as a mentor, if you can't encourage the people that you're mentoring, then you might not be the right mentor for them. And that's a hard truth. You want to keep them encouraged. You don't want to say, oh, well, you're never going to do this or you're not going to be successful. You want to be able to share with them that they can do it, that they can make it. So let's talk about what that coaching and mentoring process looks like. If you're a person who has found someone to help you, you want to start out with this first box. Here is what I asked you. Then you're going to move over and listen to what they say. And then you're going to say, here is what I heard you say. When you come back, you're going to say, here is what I did. Now can I ask more questions? And the cycle starts over again. Here's what I need. Listen to their direction. Then make sure you understood what they said. Go do it. And then start the cycle over again. This is what happened when I did it. I had questions about this or that, or maybe, okay, here's the next thing. And this cycle is how coaching and mentoring relationships should work. And this dynamic should put you in a position where you're able, if you're the person who's receiving the mentorship, that you're able to get the things that you need. And for the person that's providing it, this is a clear cycle that you can make sure that you're holding them accountable for those things. If they were supposed to go and do a booking, do a mock booking or do an actual booking and then come back, that next encounter, how did that booking go? Did you book it? Did you have any challenges? Again, it's a two-way street. It's a relationship. And you want to make sure that you're both respecting one another's time. So I want to take a moment real quick and I want to read a poem to you. And it comes from a piece that's called Dream Big. And I'm not going to read the entire thing, just a small portion of it, because this is full of encouragement. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to listen to this because I want you to dream big. And I don't want you to allow the things that people have told you in the past to limit you from stepping into your purpose. So listen, if there were ever a time to dare, to make a difference, to embark on something worth doing, it's now. Not for any grand cause necessarily, but for something that tugs at your heart, something that's your aspiration, something that's your dream. You owe it to yourself to make your days here count. Have fun, dig deep, stretch, dream big. Know, though that things worth doing seldom come easy, there will be good days and there will be bad days. There will be times when you want to turn around, pack it up, call it quits. But those times tell you that you are pushing yourself and that you are not afraid to learn by trying. So again, you want to dream big and you don't want to give up on that dream, that thing that's important. Because the question is, what will it cost to change? It's going to cost everything. Change is not easy. Being an entrepreneur, some of the growing pains of being an entrepreneur that you experience are because entrepreneurship requires change. It requires long nights after you've already had a long day. It requires sacrifice. There's a financial investment involved. All of those things are a change. For some people, they give up on their business simply because of the monthly administrative fee, because they've been used to going to a traditional job and they never looked at what the cost of overhead of going to work a job is. If they understood that, they'd realize that the investment in their business is far less than what they spend day to day going to their job. Next question is, when can you start? This has a specific date and or time. I need you to do me a favor. I want you to look down at your watch, or if you've got your phone, look at the clock on your phone, or if you've got a calendar, I need you to look on that. And I want you to locate for me someday. I'll wait. There's no box on any calendar that says someday. There's no box or time slot on your watch that says sometime or when I get around to it. Often people say, well, I'll do it tomorrow or I'll do it next week. All of that keeps you in the same loop you've always been in. Give yourself a specific point to start, and I suggest it be today. Some of you are saying because we're in December, we're getting close to the beginning of the year, you're thinking about quote unquote New Year's resolutions. Nobody's going to keep any resolutions, so why wait for a resolution that you're not going to follow? Start now, start with a specific time. And then what will it look like when you get there? For some, being motivated to move to a new place is going to require that you see that vision. Take a moment in that dreaming process to realistically see yourself at the end. For people who, want to lose weight, maybe they were a certain, they got a reunion coming up and they're trying to get back to whatever they looked like in high school for whatever reason. And it may take visualizing you at what you look like then, look at some old pictures. I don't know. But for you, with the help of the internet, I mean, you can create new AI images of yourself and put your face on a whole nother body if it takes that for you to see and understand, what you might look like if your goal was to lose weight. Or imagine if there's a certain financial goal that you're trying to get to. What would your life look like if you had an extra $1,000 per month, 5,000 per month? Or if you're trying to put together that vision for your business, what amount of money is it that you need in order for that magical outcome to happen? Pay attention to those kinds of things when you're in that awareness phase. What is it that looks like? Because some people can't reach a goal that they can't see. Success is a generic term until you've defined it for yourself. What does successful look like? If you don't know what it is, you'll never know when you get there, and you won't know where you are along the road to success. And that creates frustration as well. So you've got to define it, and it's not going to be the same for everybody. So also don't put yourself into a box of using someone else's definition of success for you. What is it that is going to put you in that position? And what will it look like when you get there? My good friend John C. Maxwell said, the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. I sincerely hope that you find out why you were born. What is that thing that you were created to do, that you are uniquely designed and especially created for? Because once you do that, Oh my goodness, it's just an amazing thing. I was excited about doing this training because it gave me an opportunity, another opportunity to do the things that I was created to do. I wanted to pour into leaders, and I was so excited and so honored when I got that opportunity to do that.